Greetings, Perl citizens. I'm Will the Chill, and you have just tuned in to another episode of the Perl Town Hall. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you spending the time to come and visit with us in the Perl Town Hall. As I said, my name is Will the Chill. You may know me by my legal name, Will Braswell. And I am here as your host of the Perl Town Hall. This is our weekly live web show. This is web-based television for you to learn about all the cool things going on in the world of Perl. So we appreciate all of the Perl citizens for joining us today, and we will go ahead and get started. So today, our topic will be part one of marketing. Oh, everybody, hey, marketing. Right. So, this beloved topic of the Perl leaders, but is a very important topic nevertheless. So we are going to spend this week's show with part one of marketing. And we will continue next week on the Perl Town Hall with more about marketing. Yes, it is that important that it's getting at least a two-part show. So let's do as we often have at the beginning of our Perl Town Hall show. We will begin with a quote from St. Larry Wall, the founder of Perl. Thank you, Benny. Thank you very much, my dear Benny, for posting the link. I didn't even know if the chat room was set up correctly because Facebook is making us use a whole new software now. So thank you for Benny for putting that on there. And now I know that the chat room works. I cannot see who is tuned in, which is a pretty useless part of this new software that Facebook has. But for all of you that are joining us, thank you. If you're here live, you should be able to type in some comments like Benny has, and I should be able to see them. And I will check back periodically to see if there are any questions or comments that I need to address. So here's our quote from St. Larry Wall. And I quote, "We invented the notion of culture several million years ago. Overall, it seems to have been a useful concept," unquote. And the reason why we give that quote, it's related to our Perl Community Roadmap marketing slogan or motto, which is our programming culture is our brand. Yes, our programming culture is our brand. So what is the culture of Perl? I'm not going to answer that question, and I don't mean how do you culture a pearl inside of a clam, but I mean the social structures and norms and tradition of our Perl programming community. And there's lots of good parts about the Perl community, and there's lots of really crappy parts, excuse my language, about the Perl community. But I have certainly gone through both sides of that coin and continue to do so on a daily basis. So just like everything in life, it's a double-sided coin. It's a double-edged sword. It's got its good parts and its bad parts. It's ups and its downs. So let's just spend a minute. What are some of the things that are well known about the Perl community? Well, you've got our famous leader, St. Larry, who helped to invent the internet and, all of that back in the day. I guess him and Al Gore got together and plugged together a bunch of pipes and stuff, and that's how they built the internet. Or not. That was probably made up. But Larry did have quite a lot to do with that. St. Larry built, of course, Perl, and Perl was used for all the original CGI programs, which were essentially the original web apps. That was the way that we used to build interactive software on the internet. Of course, CGI has gone away, but now we have other frameworks, MVC type things, and Catalyst and Mojolicious and Dancer and all that for Perl. So there's still many web applications being built, of course, with Perl. So, Larry and the creation of the internet as we know it, that's a big sort of famous piece of the Perl community. Although it is an aging piece because as I had mentioned, the original CGI that the internet was built on is long gone. I mean, I know there's still some of it running, but it used to be there were hundreds, if not thousands, of websites built with that, and they were among the most famous and important websites. Now you have a lot of other competition with PHP and Python and JavaScript and all the other languages that we don't need to go into right now, but obviously Perl is not the only choice or even the top choice anymore. Of course, we want to change that because our overall Perl community roadmap slogan is how to put Perl back on top, with the tongue-in-cheek subheading or alternate title of how to make Perl great again. And there's no political affiliation implied, believe me. If I were going to make a hat, it would have to be neither red nor blue in color. Perhaps green or orange or purple or some other color to help represent Perl. But nevertheless, we do want to make Perl great again, and we do want to put Perl back on top. So we're very appreciative of St. Larry for starting the community in the first place. What other things are sort of hallmarks or important parts of the Perl community? Well, just off the cuff, off the top of my head, I would say the longevity, because the community has been around a long time. The well-known Perl conferences, which up until this year, we've always had in person every year. We'll have an online conference this year, whether for better or worse. You know who you are, and you know why I'm saying that. But we'll see what happens with that. I'm not convinced that it will go either way. We'll just have to wait and see. But the Perl conferences certainly are a big piece of the Perl culture and community. We also have, of course, all of our software that we sort of keep on CPAN, our central place that everybody puts their stuff, the Comprehensive Perl Archive Network. And that's, that's seen as a real treasure of the Perl community. Other things that I would point out that are not exactly positive aspects of the Perl culture or community. There's a stereotype of unfriendliness, at least among a lot of the old school Perl 5 programmers. And again, you all know who you are. And if you're asking, is he talking about me? I'm probably talking about you. But if you're just a normal Perl programmer, no, you're fine. All the people watching this show are fine. It's those who are trying to hold the language back, or who are trying to grasp control or convert Perl into something that it's not, or convert the Perl conferences into something that they're not. Those are the people that I would consider to be problematic at this time. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means they may not be doing what's in the best interest of the Perl community. So we do have this stereotype of a lot of argumentation. I will call out a group that's very important to Perl, but also probably the worst at arguing, which at least stereotypically has been the P5P, which is the Perl 5 Porters group. And they're essentially the ones that are in charge of the Perl language distribution, the executable file that we all run in order to run Perl 5 programs, or as we just call them now, Perl programs. So P5P is they keep to themselves, and they may be somewhat friendly to themselves, but I've seen tons and tons of argumentation in that group, and not exactly friendly towards outsiders, which I'm speaking at least somewhat from personal experience. So there's a lot of good parts of the Perl culture, the programming culture of the Perl community, and there's some not awesome parts. And it's just like every group of people. There's going to be really great ones, and there's going to be less than great ones, and there's going to be those that are just downright trolls or trying to derail what everyone else is doing, or they just don't know what everyone else is doing, their own thing. Okay, let's see. I've got to be able to mute this because I just had Facebook ding at me. You'd think Facebook would mute itself when it knows that you're live, but no, it lets you go ahead and ding yourself. Okay, hello to Mike Buchholz. Says, Mike here from Germany with a freshly installed Debian Buster on my laptop. Awesome. Yes, that's really great. And you know, I'm a long time user of Debian-based Linux distributions. I only use Xubuntu currently, but I used straight up Debian for many years. And I might as well mention, since Mike's online, it's somewhat of a coincidence that he happens to be tuning in tonight from Germany, because it was when I was visiting Germany several years ago with my trusty old Debian laptop that I experienced the first major problem I'd ever really had with trying to use Debian, which was that was the beginning of Wi-Fi. So that's probably dating myself a little bit as to when I was in Germany for this particular trip. But I had primarily been used to plugging in a hard line into my laptop, and was unable to do so. I had a wireless card, but Debian did not have a Wi-Fi configuration tool. So it somehow expected you to put in a whole bunch of weird configuration and security and encryption data manually in some text configuration files, which I never figured out. Believe me, I tried for several days, and in the end, I ended up having to go to a Middle Eastern coffee shop, and the proprietor was able to burn me a CD of, at that point, regular Ubuntu, and so we were able to actually get that CD and install Ubuntu on my laptop and get the Wi-Fi working immediately, right then and there. And I never looked back. Now, of course, it's all based on Debian, and that's what matters. But you got to have that extra bit of usability that just wasn't there. So now I have Xubuntu. For those of you looking for a good Perl compatible operating system, I strongly support Xubuntu. It's lightweight. It runs Perl awesome, no matter how complicated your Perl stuff is. And believe me, I know. So thank you for joining us, Mike. I'm super jazzed that you got Debian Buster installed, and get Perl going on there, buddy. So moving back to our main point here, which is marketing. We're going to talk about 4 different components of marketing today, and that will be all of our time just on those 4. We'll have to come back next week, as I said, and continue on, because marketing is an important topic. Without marketing, your project is likely to fail if faced with any competition from someone that does perform marketing. In other words, he who markets best generally wins the customers. So it's seen as a necessary evil by those of us in the open source community because, we didn't get into open source Linux and Perl type programming in order to spend all of our time marketing software to companies and end users and so forth. We just wanted to write code. We're just a bunch of geeks, right? We're just a bunch of code monkeys, or as we like to say in the Perl community, just another Perl hacker. So, I'm just another Perl hacker. I just wanted to create, a compiler and a community roadmap and a machine learning library and a town hall and all that. I didn't want to have to actually market to anybody. Well, guess what? Perl Town Hall is marketing. In fact, it's the very first thing we're going to talk about right now. So if you're following along online, then that means you're probably on perlcommunity.org/marketing.html at this point. And if you're not, go ahead and click and surf and browse on over, buddy. So what do we have to say for our first point about marketing? And this first point has to do with marketing materials or marketing content, as it were. And we are specifically addressing podcast and webisodes. So in case you are a grumpy old, caveman and you don't know what the word podcast and webisodes means, basically this is the new version of radio and TV. Just think of it like that. Podcast are generally just some guy talking into a microphone. Hello, this is my podcast. I hope you like my cool microphone here. I bought it because someone said my other microphone was really not cool. But that's generally what we have for podcasting, is some guys talking into microphones. And it's the same thing that you would expect to see if you were visiting a radio station, for example, and you were looking at the guys just sitting there, the radio DJs just talking to each other. It's like, one or two or three people that just sit around and talk about stuff. So sometimes they do have video on podcasts, but the idea is not the video. In fact, the idea is that whatever they're doing should be able to be translated without video so that people can listen to it on their MP3 players, listen to it through their car stereo while they're driving to and from work, if they're an essential employee or if their part of the world is opened back up again. Get it? It's a timely quarantine joke. For those of you watching in the future, do your research. But for those of us here now, you can listen to podcasts on your computer. You can listen to it on your iPhone, your watch, your smart devices, probably your toaster and refrigerator at this point. Everything has got podcasts nowadays. The other side of podcast are webisodes, which is what this is. This show, the Perl Town Hall. The Perl Town Hall is a webisode. What that means is a web-based television episode. That's what it means. So a webisode is like a TV show online. Hi, Mom, I'm on TV. I'm a TV show online. So hello, Jerry from Nigeria. Glad you could join us today, sir. Thank you for supporting Perl. So yes, this show, which is the Perl Town Hall here, which, by the way, you can see I added a splash of color so that it will match our online event logo. The Perl Town Hall is a webisode. It's that simple. This is a web-based show that we have every week, and people can tune in online or they can watch it later if they're not available while it's live. And that's essentially what we are. The Perl Town Hall is a webisode, and this is something that I actually had wanted to start doing when I first conceived of the Perl Community Roadmap and the Patreon and Kickstarters and everything like that. So it took a little while to get it going, but now here we are. So let's see. We have another interesting quote here from Benny Braswell. I think I know her. Okay, Benny's quote here says, if you want to have a successful product or business, and then she put or computer language, you need to spend 80% of your time, money, and efforts on marketing, unquote. And she gives this quote as being ascribed to some rich capitalist. Oh dear. Well, you know, if that rich capitalist really needs to absolve him or herself of their capitalist sins and crimes, they can just go ahead and go to pearlcommunity.org or our patreon.com/ourpearl, and we will be glad to accept all of your filthy lucre. And we're going to turn right back around and use it to promote Perl. Marketing and code writing and all that stuff. So I'm not sure if I exactly agree with the 80% number. That seems a bit high. But I would say at least 50-50. If you're going to spend, half your time writing code, then spend the other half of your time promoting that code. And that could take any number of different forms, which is what this whole marketing discussion is about today. So obviously we have a really great outlet here with the Perl Town Hall in order to get people on board from all over the world, all over the Perl world, as it were. And we have lots of interesting comments and interactions with people thanks to this marketing web show. So yes, the Perl Town Hall is a webisode. We are currently marketing the Perl Town Hall as being the premier Perl talk show, which I think is fair. There have been some other webisodes or web shows that are vaguely Perl related, and I would give a shout out to Merlin, which is Randall L. Schwartz, one of the famous early Perl pioneers, along with St. Larry and others. But at this time, Merlin's show is about all different types of open source software, not just Perl. So it's not a Perl talk show. But this show, the Perl Town Hall, is a Perl talk show. It is the premier Perl talk show on Earth. You're welcome. So what kind of things do you want to discuss during podcast and during webisodes? I'm glad you asked. Well, I've got a whole list here, so let's just look at a few of those items. Perl news items. Well, in case you didn't know, tomorrow is the deadline for the second round of call for papers for the online Perl conference. Again, not sure if that's going to be really a good conference or not, but it doesn't hurt if you want to submit a paper. So there's your little bit of Perl news. I guess I probably need to organize myself better so that I give the Perl news up front, but hey, it just gives you something to wait for and look forward to. Little bits of Perl news and nuggets of wisdom coming at you from all over here. So Perl news, what's going on? What's the latest stuff? What's going on this week in Perl? That's something we definitely care about and we want to talk about. Other things, obviously we want to talk about the Perl Community Roadmap. Here we are. Every episode of this show so far has been about the Perl Community Roadmap because the roadmap is our future. If you think you have a better way to save Perl than the Perl Community Roadmap, I'm all ears. But you know what? I'm pretty sure that whatever your idea is, it's already somewhere in the roadmap. And if not, well, cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye if I lie. I will thank you publicly and add your section to the Perl roadmap. But I'm pretty sure I hit all the major bases, so go ahead and give me your best shot. Obviously, we care about things that are not just the Perl roadmap, such as jobs. We had somebody say that they wanted to have a segment of the show about jobs. So anybody that's watching this show live or pre-recorded, if you are either in need of a Perl job, or if you are needing to hire for a Perl job, then we want to hear from you. So you can send us your details. What's the job that you want? What's the job that you've got? All of that stuff. And I'll read it right here live on the air. And everyone that's watching can get some really cool information about that. So, yes, we've got that as a possible future topic. Business development. We have talked quite a bit about that during our past episodes, especially in the industry episode, which was our second episode, and also somewhat during this episode and the next part 2 of marketing as well. So it is actually critically important that we have Perl focused business development, because if we don't, well, then our Perl businesses will not develop, will not be successful in this global capitalist economy, and Perl will suffer even more and will not be on top and will continue to languish. I just had a very good friend of mine who's a famous Perl programmer talk to me today, and I guess because of the coronavirus and everything else, Perl contracts are at risk right now. Maybe companies that are that previously had budgets for software development, maybe their budgets are dropping because they're not getting the sales they need due to the coronavirus. Or maybe it's because, again, of our old nemesis, Python. Or worse yet, Java. So, those are the challenges that we will continue to just bang our heads against the brick wall over and over again until we really do some good business development. So that's a big part of what we should be discussing during podcast and webisodes. You can throw in other stuff in there too. You could talk about source code. You can bring up a screen share and show everybody all your latest Perl code. We could talk about new or interesting projects. Hey, did you see what just got released on CPAN? Oh, that's pretty cool. There was one that was called Source Hut that Dean Hamstead from the Sydney Perlmongers posted recently, and it's sort of a new open source piecemeal configurable version of like GitLab or Bitbucket or the old standby GitHub, which is now has its own scent to it ever since the acquisition. But Source Hut is a new project, and it's an interesting project, and it could help Perl people. So that's the kind of thing that should be mentioned and discussed during podcast and webisodes. Other things, we will probably have special guests and featured developers on future episodes of the Perl Town Hall. So if you are a Perl programmer and you think you have something neat to talk about, let me know, and I might agree with you, and we might just have you on the show. And I can have your head next to mine, and we can talk back and forth, and you can show us some cool stuff online or something like that. So featured developers, that's another thing, also known as a community spotlight. It's a spotlight on a community member. And, of course, questions and answers. So right now we take questions and answers all the time in the text comments. We actually have a new comment here from Mr. Mocha Potty, one of my favorite supporters on Patreon. So replying to Benny's comment about the 80% thing, Mr. Mocha Potty says, that sounds right. I recall someone quoting 20% as the cost of raw material of any product. And if you consider that software, the raw materials are intangible zeros and ones, then probably the physical component of that software is maybe my fingers typing the code from my smart little brain. And that could be, like Mr. Mokapati said, that could be your 20% spent coding and your 80% spent talking to people and promoting stuff. Again, I'm probably lean more towards the 50-50 because I like to get code written. And if I had spent 80% of my time marketing, I would have never been able to get the Perl optimizing compiler to actually work right. So at least in the beginning of your project, you probably need to spend more time coding and less time marketing, and then that will change over time. So those two graphs will probably cross at some point. Thank you for that comment, Mr. Mokapati. And please continue to chime in, y'all, when you have any other interesting things. So we have the overall goal for doing podcasts and webisodes is just to create more Perl content, and we're trying to reach the Perl audiences. Someone that's either currently a Perl programmer, someone that used to be a Perl programmer but they still love the language, or somebody that's not a Perl programmer. Maybe they're not a programmer of any kind, or maybe they're Python, or maybe they just are a college student learning about Perl. And those are our target audience members. So we're trying to create interesting Perl content like what we're talking about right now that will appeal to those audience members. And this just so happens to be Perl-related marketing that we're talking about right now. But in future episodes of the Perl Town Hall, we'll have all manner of topics. We'll have technical things, we'll have community things, all the stuff I just talked about. So it's a holistic approach. You've got to have something for everyone. So yes, we're just trying to create more content for our Perl audiences. And from Germany gives the joke that we could spend 80% of our time debugging the code. Ha ha ha! Whoosh, whoosh. Oh, if only it were not true. It's funny because it's true. And it's also kind of makes me cry because of how much of my life has been spent debugging code. Not just my own code, I should mention, but other people's code too. But yes, Mike, that is, I will give you a half react on that one because that's pretty funny. Okay, so moving on, we have the next section that's also related to marketing materials, which is brochures and flyers. And I actually have a show and tell for this section that I'll bring out in just a moment. So basically, we've all heard of the new futuristic. The way of the future is the paperless office, and we've been told that since the advent of personal computers 30 years ago or whenever it was, whenever that first came out of the paperless office. And it's kind of funny because as much as paper and documents that we do save by emailing each other, digital copies and so forth, I think that we make up for it by the fact that everyone has a great big laser printer in your office and fax machines and Xerox photocopy machines and color laser jet and bubble jets and ink jets and easy jets and micro jets or whatever every jet you've got that is just printing reams and reams and reams of paper. So I'm not sure that we exactly got to the paperless office that we were promised, but I was also promised a flying car, and I haven't gotten that one yet either. So promises. But, you know, that's okay, because we live in a overly digitized world, at least for those of us in the computer programming industry, such as myself and probably most of y'all tuning in today. So I'm guessing that you have just like endless digital media, endless digital content. This is called information overload. Bah, bah, bah. Every different YouTube and podcast and email and Twitter and Facebook and, you know, Netflix and every different possible thing that's just too much. Not to mention normal websites and normal, you know, word processing. So we've just got 100 different fire hoses just hitting us right in the face at all times, and it's, you know, it's hard to keep that away. So there is a real value, I would argue, in having a real tactile document, a piece of paper that I can pick up and hold on to. So there's a few different types of what we call marketing collateral. And this is thank you, Robert, if you ever tune into these videos and watch them. Robert, who taught me much of what I know about sales and marketing, who taught me the term marketing collateral. And it doesn't mean collateral damage, and it doesn't mean collateral for your mortgage payment, and it doesn't mean some other scientific or mathematical terms. But marketing collateral simply means documents for marketing, brochures, booklets, flyers, also known as leaflets, any sort of actual physical thing that can help inform the customer in a brief and concise manner, and hopefully convince them to buy something. Whether they have to pay money for it or not is not germane right now, but I mean, they're going to buy into it. Are they going to buy into our Perl language? Are they going to buy into our Perl project and our Perl community? Or are they going to go buy into Python instead? That's the issue. So my idea and my claim and my challenge to put forth is that every single major Perl project needs to have up-to-date marketing collateral. So I brought some today. I have here my our Perl brochures, and these are actually the proofs that I was using for the printing company when we were first printing these up for the computer conferences. So here you can see a real life, physical, tactile piece of paper, beautiful, glossy, full color, trifold brochure advertising, you guessed it, Perl and the R Perl optimizing compiler. So you may see a few stray marks on this because I was taking notes on it for the printer, but this was the 12th version that we worked on in order to get everything lined up just right. So let's just take a quick run through of what a brochure may include. Now, this is what we call a trifold brochure. That means that it has one section folding out to a second section and ultimately folding out to a third section. So you can see this was made in the RPerl 4.0 era, which was just about a year and a half ago, or a little bit more than that, when we were originally making these brochures. And so that's what makes it the trifold brochure. It has 1, 2, 3 sections, thus the tri or triple or three-fold brochure. Interestingly, on a trifold brochure, there's actually only 2 folds in the paper, but we're not gonna try and nitpick over semantics here. Trifold brochure. So, what are the elements of a trifold brochure? Very briefly, you've got the cover. This should be simple with graphics. We've got one nice big graphic at the top, one nice graphic at the bottom, and some large bold text in the middle. This should not be a whole bunch of words. It should just be an eye-catching graphics with a few big bold words in the title so they know what the brochure is about. Now, sometimes people may pick up the brochure and then go straight to the back. Okay? So you kind of want the back to be a standalone section as well. The front is a standalone section, and the back should also be as well. So here in the back, you can actually see a nice color photo of the Austin Pearlmongers in this case, and a little bit that is about us. It talks about Perl, the Perl community, Perl 11, Ingy, Rainey, myself. Talks about the Pearlmongers, gives some links, Facebooks and Twitters and websites. Talks about me and Benny here, a little bit about ourselves. And, it's essentially showing you who we are and why we're real people. We're real humans just like you. Well, maybe not just like you, but close enough. And I promise I am a real human from Earth, in case anyone told you something that was a lie or otherwise. So Benny, on the other hand, is from France, so that makes her an alien, at least according to the Department of Immigration. So you've got the front, nice big graphics and bold titles. You've got the back, standalone. I like to do that as the About Us section. Then you have the insides. Now, the inside is kind of neat because when you open one, you get a little book. It's kind of like a little book here. And so you can read stuff about why is Perl faster, if you compile things with our Perl. And then over here it has some testimonials as well. So there's me talking about my own experiences with Perl. There's our old friend Matthias. No one knows what he looks like. He apparently looks like a cartoon rabbit. That's from the Sam and Max cartoon. And we have some other of our business partners and Perl friends included. So you can get some personal testimonials and a little bit of speed and general information. And then when you go the full distance of opening up the whole thing, you get the nice big color picture here. So that's kind of the reveal that's inside is a really cool picture, some cool graphics. And I like to put bullet points up here at the top to make it easier because they've already read a bunch of text by this point, okay? They don't need to be blasted with a whole other wall of text. I like to give them the dessert after they eat their dinner. The candy surprise on the inside is a nice big color picture with easy to read bullet points. So there you have it, the brief anatomy of a trifold brochure. I've made several of these for several different projects. This is our one for the RPerl compiler, and you will want to make your own trifold brochures for your projects as well. So I can help you with that. I can send you some OpenOffice document templates, and you can cut paste your own content or whatever. But if you are a Perl project leader, then you are pretty much responsible for either making this yourself or getting someone else who knows how to do it well. Because there's nothing sadder than a really ugly brochure. And believe me, it's not going to help anybody. We have another comment here from our good friend, Mr. Mokapati. He says, software development is all about adding and removing bugs, aka features based on personal perspective. My bug is your feature. Get your feature out of my bug. And also, software development is based on experience. He says, based on experience adding is indistinguishable from removing. So this is kind of a funny way of looking at things that, is it a feature? Is it a bug? Well, I don't know. It depends on who you ask. And often when we're trying to ship software, let's get that release. Let's get our Perl released. Let's get the latest applications released. You may have a few bugs in there, and you may just leave them as surprise features for your users to find and perhaps complain about at a later date. But yes, that's a very good quote. Thank you, Mr. Mokapati. So back to brochures and marketing materials, you can make other stuff. You can make something that's just a whole page and it doesn't have any folds in it. You can make something that's printed on like a half page or quarter pages. So then you can cut it with a paper cutter and you can get more per page if you want to save paper. I do strongly recommend that you need to do this using full color, high quality laser prints. So I always go to either a FedEx office or to a local printing shop like Minuteman Press. And I try and, give my business to those local companies and support their local employees, because I do not have a gigantic color laser printer to print off hundreds and hundreds of glossy, high quality copies. So I go and hire someone else to do it. These kind of documents may just seem like they're fun or, throwaway documents, but these are critically important for at least two main things that we should care about greatly. First of all, business meetings and business functions. If you can show up to a meeting and hand someone this in person, it's kind of the smallest possible gift you could give someone, because it's just a piece of paper, but they know, at least subconsciously, that it wasn't free because it's glossy paper, it's full color, it's nicely folded, and whoever made this put a lot of thought into it. In this case, it happened to be Benny and I. But yes, we did put a lot of effort and thought into making this particular brochure. So when I give somebody one of these, I'm essentially giving them $1. Here's $1. I could just hand them the $1, which would not benefit either of us, except for maybe giving them some more money to buy coffee and soda. Or I could give them a full color trifold brochure, which is a much nicer gift to give someone during a business meeting. And it's informative to boot. The other time that brochures and other marketing collateral is critically important is during computer conferences. And this is probably where we need them in the highest bulk number, because you're going to have tons of people coming through your Perl booth and they all want to snag a color brochure. And rightfully so, because you want them to see that Perl is still alive. People are still putting time and effort into making Perl marketing materials and into distributing those Perl marketing materials. So, let's see. The goal of all of these marketing collaterals is simply paper advertisements. That's it. I mean, that's what this whole thing is a physical paper-based advert. I say advertisement. Other people might say differently, perhaps less correctly, advertisement. It's the same thing. So you want an advertisement, you want a paper-based thing that you can hand someone. This is the answer: marketing collateral. Okay, so moving on from marketing collateral, our next section is promotional merchandise. This is a very fun section to talk about, and we're getting close to our 1 hour limit, so I won't spend too much time. But for those of you that are following along in our website, you can see a really fun picture that Benny and I took of our marketing merchandise, our promotional merch, also known as swag or schwag or tchotchkes or tchotchkes or freebies or giveaways or whatever it is that you call it. It's free stuff. It just means free stuff. That's all it means. And you could count brochures as part of promotional merchandise, but that's kind of the degenerate case because it's just a single piece of paper. So we put that in its own category that we just finished talking about. For promotional merchandise, you're going to see in our picture, we've got all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've got a whole long list here. T-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, stickers, wooden nickels, also known as tuits. You get on to it. You could give out flash drives that has stuff like digital copies of your marketing collateral. You could give out gadgets. In fact, I've got a gadget here that I got years ago at the Supercomputing 2008 conference, and I've kept it. It has a lifetime warranty on this little gadget, and it's got like a flashlight and a little hand charger so you can turn it and plug in your cell phone, and it's got a little siren on it. It's a gadget. I mean, do I use it? No, but here it is. It's a gadget, and it's got a logo from Indiana University. So guess what? I'm marketing a university that I have absolutely no affiliation with simply because I went to a computer conference and I talked to a dude long enough to convince him to give me this cool gadget. So in this case, as I mentioned, I actually had to talk to someone because for the nicer giveaways, you actually want people to talk to you. Now, if it's stickers and maybe the tuits and stuff like that cost a penny or a few pennies each, you can put those at the front of the table closest to the people. And the people that are just looky-loos or the people that don't care about Perl and they just want to grab handfuls of free junk, they can take all the stickers and tuits that they want because it's still free advertising for Perl. And if they stick it on anything, anywhere, it's free advertising for Perl. However, when you really get into the actual devices, gadgets, coffee mugs, that sort of thing, you want to put those further away from people so that they don't just reach over and grab all of your coffee mugs all at once, because each of those costs you $5 to make and you only had a $100 budget. So do the math. You only had 20 coffee mugs and they're going to be gone within 20 seconds if you let the first 20 people that come through snag one. But if you put a stack of coffee mugs, there will be the people that are there to get coffee mugs. And there will be the people there that want to talk about Perl. And those are the people that will come up to you and will actually listen to your cool little spiel about Perl. And they'll ask you questions about Perl and they'll engage you in a conversation about Perl. And those are the people that you give the free $5 stuff to. Okay? You probably don't need to go much higher than $5 unless you're at like a rich people convention. But heck, I mean, even when we're at OSCON, which unfortunately does not apparently exist anymore, thanks a lot, coronavirus. But when we were at OSCON, which I have manned the booth twice and also introduced St. Larry on the big stage, that was, even then, probably the most expensive giveaways that the rich companies were giving was like $10 maybe. So, and those are, they've got more money than sense and millions of dollars of annual marketing budgets that they have to spend or else they're going to lose it because some CEO told them to. So for those of us in the open source community that has our own limited budgets, we have to be more careful with just freely giving away everything that will end up getting thrown into the trash or broken or not cared about by people that just don't care about Perl. We want the people that do care about Perl to get the coolest Perl stuff because they're going to actually show it to people and talk about it and use it to market Perl for us. So other things you can do, give away keychains, snacks, candy, stuffed animals, toys, books, magazines, pens, pencils, notepads, sticky pads, posters, even tote bags, because then they're carrying around all of their Python crap, but it's inside a Perl bag. Okay, so People don't see the Python marketing and advertisement, they see the Perl one instead. So all of those things and more are the kind of freebies that we want to be giving away to people. And in a world where there's no such thing as a free lunch, Tanstoffel, people love to get free stuff. I mean, here I am talking about this free thing I got 12 years ago. Go figure. So there's an act of giving and receiving. Like, this thing was not free, but I'm giving it to you for free. I'm doing the human act of giving, and you're doing the human act of receiving. And what did we just accomplish? We accomplished a human interaction. It wasn't a Twitter tweet or a Facebook poke or a ping or a dot or a tilde. It was a physical interaction where someone gave something to someone else in person. And that's the kind of real life human interaction that people will remember. And as we have been studying in our human psychology, self-betterment studies, people do not tend to remember what you said, at least not in verbatim detail, unless you have that kind of special eidetic memory. People tend to remember how you made them feel, okay? Did you make them feel like one of these, silly little heart things? Or did they make you feel like, oh, I'm going to pull my hair out and I'm going to want to fight you because I disagree with what you're making me feel, anger or frustration? So you want people to feel nice. You want them to feel like they got a gift because they did. You want them to feel like the Perl community cares about them enough to spend our own time and money to do that. And I would like to say one shout out to the all-time champions of Perl freebies. Yes, you know that I'm talking about you, Wendy and Liz, our beloved matrons from the Netherlands, and also their dearly departed friend and assistant, Jeff Goff, who also manned the booths quite a lot, and I did with him. Other people, of course, that play a big role in this sort of thing, like Mark Keating and some of the Perl Foundation people and so forth. But really, Wendy and Liz taught me what it is to truly have freebies, because they are the queens of freebies. And in fact, they're the ones that seeded me with all of the freebies that I needed to go to many Perl conferences and many more, hopefully, in the future, and promote Perl at computer conferences with a Perl booth or a Perl table or whatever it is. So obviously the goal here is to increase interest in Perl simply by giving away free stuff. And I did have one other thing I was going to show you. It was not a Perl freebie, but it was my MySQL hat that I got at the Texas Linux Fest probably 4 or 5 years ago when I first met Jerry Cope. Hi, Jerry, and hi, Bonnie, and everyone else that was there. You could get lots of cool stuff like this free hat from the MySQL people. And as much as the MySQL project may suffer from corporate actions or interference or buyouts and all that sort of stuff, we do still favor and support the MySQL community, and we greatly appreciate their software, the longevity and quality of the MySQL database system. And I wear this hat like every day. I mostly wear it in the house. That's why it's getting a little raggy. But this is an example of an awesome freebie, an awesome piece of swag that someone gave me, and I was very thankful for that. And it's a good hat, and it's a comfortable hat. So You could have people wearing your Perl logo on their hat for years, and everyone's seeing it, on them as they wear it. So there you go. I'm giving, again, free marketing to a project that I have absolutely no connection with. MySQL. It's a good database, though. I do support it. By the way, LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and Perl. And if you're using some other stack, that's fine. You are wrong in doing so, but I won't judge. So moving along to our final piece for the day, because we have now reached our 1 hour, but I do have to talk a little bit about white papers and research papers. We'll only spend a few minutes on this, but it is still an important part of marketing. So again, we live in this world. We live in this world of information overload. We live in this world of no free lunches. And we live in this world of sound bites and buzzwords. Oh boy, who loves sound bites and buzzwords? Let's try and dumb things down to the smallest, dumbest possible level. That's what a soundbite and a buzzword gives you. So essentially, it's just people that are trying to give me a quick little fix. What's the simplest, most simple-minded thing I can get from some conversation? That's what you get with sound bites and buzzwords. And that's okay sometimes when people only have 3 seconds to pay attention to what you're doing. But those are probably not people that will be thoroughly convinced of anything by the 3 seconds of your sound bite or buzzword. Things that do convince people are deep thought, detailed analysis, and real hard research data. That is something you can present to your boss at work and use it as a tool to convince him or her that you have a good Perl project to invest or approve. So we are trying to present people with a more detailed, deeper thought and deeper analysis of Perl projects, of Perl itself, of the Perl community, and all of these aspects of Perl. So what are some of the things that are presented in technical papers? Very briefly, benchmarks and speed timings, algorithms, explaining how the algorithms work, underlying scientific and mathematical concepts. Obviously, you got to have charts and graphs. If you don't have at least one pie chart, you're doing it wrong. And by the way, bar graphs give you extra points. Also, you can include snippets of source code. Don't put a whole lot, but just a little bit so people can see what the source code is like. You could do comparisons and contrasts. This is what my thing is like, and this is another thing. You can do competitive analysis where you take all the competitors and put them in a big grid and show all the features on one axis and all of the challengers on the other axis and show how each one does and show hopefully why Perl is the best. You can talk about how to apply these different concepts in industry and so forth. There's a lot of things you can put into a white paper. White papers are supposed to be highly technical, and they are supposed to be highly informative. So it should be the opposite of dumbing things down. If a brochure is the dumbest of dumbing down that you want to be, because you don't want to be as dumb as just a soundbite or buzzword, this is about as simple as you should get. A white paper is probably about as complicated as you should get, because it's going to have all of the pertinent technical details in it. And it's a type of research paper. You can even get it published in like research journals, and you should, to get wider distribution and wider marketing for Perl. So whenever someone gets a hold of a detailed technical research paper or white paper, this is hopefully going to help them form a more educated opinion about Perl. And that's what we need. We need people who have smart brains and good, fully educated opinions about Perl so that they can have intelligent conversations and hold up their end in a debate about why should I fund your Perl project instead of these other Python projects. And excuse me, allergies. Thank you, Texas. Last but not least, what is the goal of having white papers, Perl research papers, and so forth? It's just a deeper understanding. It's that we want ourselves to have a deeper understanding. By writing those research papers, you're forced to have that deeper understanding, and we want to pass that along to others. So we're going to wrap up there. I know that, as usual, this was kind of a rapid fire review. Today we talked about 4 different aspects of marketing Perl. We talked about podcasts and webisodes like this show right now. We talked about the brochures and flyers and other marketing collateral. We talked about promotional merchandise, also known as swag and tchotchkes. And we talked about white papers or research papers. So next week we will pick up and talk more about marketing Perl, a very important aspect of Perl and the Perl Community Roadmap. So with that, I will, as always, say thank you, everyone, very much for joining us. I'm very happy to be able to host this show and to reach you all every week, coming to you live from the Perl headquarters, Austin, Texas. And we will now say, this is Will the Chill signing off from the Perl Town Hall, wishing you the best of Perl programming and Perl marketing in the future. Thank you and good night. And cut.